Hello, digital photography students. Today we are doing an assignment which I call Pop Art or Warhol. We are doing this in the style of Andy Warhol. So let's get started. First of all, I'm using Photopea and you want to open an image of somebody's face. So I have a picture here of one of my former students. And you are going to crop the part that you want to use. So for example, you want to leave out, if you have a large picture of the sky above the person's head, you want to leave that out. And in order to make the crop work, you're going to double tap your left mouse key or hit enter. So hit enter on your keyboard. And here I have a picture. Now I'm going to double the canvas size. So I'm going to go to image canvas size and I am going to double it. So you can use a calculator or you can round up and estimate. So if I have 7 times 2 is 1400. So I'm going to take my width here and make it a little bigger than 1400. Okay. And my height, again, I'm going to double that. I can always go back and change that number if I need to. I might have made it too big. Let's zoom out. I must have done something wrong. Let's go back and look at my canvas size. Oh no, I added an extra 0. Let's go back and fix that. Okay. All right, now one of the things that Photopea does that's really strange is in most normal applications, if you crop the image, it keeps that crop. But for some reason, Photopea does not. So what I'm doing is I'm using my rectangular marquee tool to delete part of the image that I don't want. Okay, and now that I have the image the way I want, and if you want to, sometimes I have to go and duplicate it even bigger, but you need to have a bigger canvas size in order to see this. Okay, so now I'm going to hit deselect and move my image in the top left-hand corner. Now I am going to duplicate the layer and move it with my move tool. Again, I'm going to right click in my layers palette. I'm going to select duplicate layer and use my move tool to move it. Again, right click, duplicate layer and use my move tool. Now that I know where my canvas is, I have all this extra canvas size, this extra space. I'm going to use my crop tool again and delete this extra space. I'm going to hit enter to make my crop tool work. All right, now in Warhol, Andy Warhol would, in his screen printing techniques, he might color the lips like Marilyn Monroe's hair, her eyes, her lips. He would do things different colors, including the background. So now I am going to select, for example, this cell phone and change that. Okay, so how am I going to select the cell phone? Well, first of all, I can't see very good, and this image is very small. So I'm going to zoom in. Then I'm going to use my polygon lasso tool, and I'm going to select this cell phone. Now, if you had a big area of color, you could use your magic wand tool to select that area. Almost done. Now I need to join these 2 points. So I'm very carefully going to do a left click. Sometimes in the past, you'd have to double click to make them connect. But if you double click, sometimes the whole selection goes away. Now I can see my marching ants here. So I know my image, I successfully selected the cell phone. However, it is on the same area. And right now I'm not on that first picture. I'm going to move me over here. So I'm going to create a new layer. And the reason I'm going to create a new layer is because I want to use the screen layer effect. And you can't do that if I just paint over a picture. So I'm going to come over here to my colors palette and I'm going to select a color. Maybe I'm going to select red. And I have my brush tool over here that I've selected, and it's a very big brush. It's 350 pixels, with like a 50% hardness. So I'm going to color my cell phone. It is now red, and I have that in my layer above. So look at your layers palette, and your layers palette should look similar to mine. Okay, so here's my red phone. I'm going to hit screen. Okay, and now that looks so much better. Now I want you to notice that the marching ants are still here. That is very important, and I'm going to explain why. So I'm going to duplicate this layer, and then I'm going to raise it so that it's above the second layer. If I don't move it above this layer, you're not going to be able to see it because it'll in essence be behind it, and we don't want that. I'm going to take my move tool and move my red cell phone over here. Now I want this cell phone to be a different color. So I'm going to hit my red palette, my color palette, and pick a different color. So I'm going to pick green. I'm going to select my brush tool and make that a different color. Now, because I duplicated this layer, the screen layer effect is already selected. Let's keep going. Duplicate layer. Select your move tool, and you can drag it down here to this one. Now, all of a sudden, you don't see the green. Where did it go? All right, let me look at this layer. Okay, so there it is. It's underneath my layer. Oops, how do I fix that? So I'm going to drag it on top of it. Okay. Now, what color do I want? My cell phone. All right, let's make it purple. I'm going to hit my brush tool and make it purple. Oopsie, I'm in the wrong layer. I messed up. So I'm going to hit Control Z and hit Edit Undo. Okay. Now I noticed right here I need to be in this layer, and I was in this layer. Oopsie, glad I caught that. Luckily, we have the Edit Undo. All right, so I need to do this cell phone. So I'm going to duplicate layer, and then I'm going to drag this on top of this one. Okay. I'm going to select my move tool and move it over here. What color do we want our cell phone? Okay, let's make it yellow. Oh, hold on. Now that I'm on this next cell phone here, I'm going to go back and click my paintbrush and decide what color I want to do with that. Then I'm going to hit my brush tool and color this and make sure I have my screen layer. Yay, good job. So now at this time, we are going to add another thing. So I'm going to go back here and I'm going to look at this student's tongue. I think, wouldn't that be good? Look good if I painted their tongue. Okay. All right. So we are going to go in and I'm going to use the polygon select tool again. All right. Now I'm going to join the points and hit enter. I'm going to use my brush tool and color that tongue. All right, now I need to make that a new layer because right now it is on this layer and I do not want it to do that. So I'm going to put it on. I'm going to create a new layer for the mouth, and then I'm going to hit screen. Uh-oh, I need to cut it. Do I need to cut it? Copied area is empty. Now that I have outlined the tongue, I am going to create a new layer and color the tongue and hit screen. Okay. Now I need to duplicate this layer and also make my brush tool smaller. So I'm going to go through here and make my brush tool a little bit bigger. That's a good size for my brush tool. Okay, so I'm going to zoom out now. I still have my tongue layer selected, so I am going to duplicate this layer. So I'm going to right click and hit duplicate layer and then move it over to this picture. Now it is behind it, so I'm going to drag that layer up. So now I can see it again. So I'm going to change the color. All right, we need a purple tongue now. Okay. Again, I'm going to duplicate the layer, select my move tool, and move it to a different layer. So if I can't see it, remember, I got to make sure it's above that layer. Okay. So I need to switch colors. So I'm going to select my brush and my color palette. Let's make that red. Forgot to hit OK. All right, duplicate layer, move it to this one, and switch colors. I've done a green tongue yet. Select the brush tool, hit that. Make sure I have a screen layer. Okay, now what I've not done is apply filters to each layer. Now, obviously, I still need to, I'm going to hit deselect. That's very important. And if I wanted to, guys, I could clean this up a little bit. Like if my tongue is not round like I want it to, I can get my eraser tool, make sure it is a soft eraser. So I change the hardness a little bit, and I can come through here and switch that up a little bit. So I can soften the edge. Same thing with my cell phone. I can try to figure out what layer my cell phone is and soften that edge with a eraser tool. But since I'm doing this video in a fast way, I'm going to keep going. All right, I'm holding my space bar so I can recenter my image. All right, so I am going to talk about filters here. Now, at this time, if you've not saved your image, go ahead and save this as a PSD file. I've called my image Warhol, so I can remember that. And I like Pixlr's effects so much better. Now, there are some layer effects you could do here for the entire layer. Like if I want to look here at the bottom left, I could pick the entire image and change it to like soft light if I wanted to. Remember, and if you don't like the change, you can just hit Control Z, or I'm going to put that back to normal. So I'm going to go to the filter gallery, and there are a lot of filters to choose from. Now, if you have a high resolution image that's like 4,000 pixels and you're on a Chromebook and a not very strong Wi-Fi connection, it is going to take a while to render the image. Okay. So what you can do here is you want to play with the brush size, definition, and smoothness just to see what that does. You don't want the image distorted a whole lot, maybe just a little bit. So play around with that. If you want to apply the effect, you would hit OK. So there are filters, but another thing that you can do for an effect is you can play with the hue and saturation and the curves. So I can do image adjustment, color balance, or I can play with the channel mixer. So instead of just doing the filters, and take some of the blue out of the image. Okay, make it more red if I wanted to. That might look good with a red tongue. And remember, if you don't like it, you can always go back here in your history palette and see what it was like before. I can also go through here, image adjustments, hue and saturation, or vibrance, and increase that saturation a little bit. Well, that's a lot. I can also do the vibrance if I want to. So that's pretty interesting. So that was an effect, playing with the color channels and hue and vibrance. Now, for this assignment to get an A, you would need to change 3 things in each picture as well as apply a filter. So that's 4 things you're doing to each layer. I've not yet gone back. I wanted to affect paint her glasses in, but to make this video as short as possible, I did not do that. But you can do the same thing like I did for the cell phone and the mouth, you can do that with the glasses. So again, let's look at something we can do to a picture. So I'm working with this top left-hand image. I can go image, adjust. I've not messed with the curves. Remember, with the curves, you can click these circles and move things around, the lightness and darkness. And here's kind of like a histogram here at the bottom. I can also image adjust. We did vibrance and hue and saturation earlier. Channel, I could do posterize. That's another filter effect you could do. And you can choose how many levels you want. And that kind of makes it look more like a poster. So you have the preview thing checked if you want to make that posterized. Shadows and highlights, replace color. I can change the exposure, make it darker or lighter, like that. So I'm going to go in and change each one. Okay. But for the sake of time, I just demonstrated a few things you can do. So you're going to experiment with the filter gallery or do image adjust and play with the different variables under there. I hope you enjoyed this video by Hindi. Bye.